Theodore Colton sat alone at the corner table of a small, downtown diner called the Golden Spoon, his fingers wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug of black coffee, wearing a faded grey hoodie and worn-out jeans that had seen better days. Nobody in that restaurant would have guessed that this man was worth $400 million. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Nobody would have guessed that he owned 3 properties across Texas, that his tech company, Colton Digital, had just been featured on the cover of Forbes, or that his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, was waiting for him at home with their housekeeper because Theodore had promised her he would be back before her bedtime. To every eye in that diner, he looked like an ordinary man, maybe a construction worker, maybe a teacher struggling to make rent, and that was exactly how Theodore wanted it. He had done this 25 times before. 25 blind dates where he had shown up looking poor, pretending to count his dollars before ordering, letting the women see a version of him that had nothing to offer but his personality, his kindness and his heart. And every single time, every single one of those 25 women had found an excuse to leave early. Some checked their phones and suddenly remembered an emergency. Some became cold and distant the moment he said he could only afford to split a salad. One woman had actually laughed at him before walking out the door. Theodore had not done any of this out of cruelty. He had done it because 6 years ago, his ex-wife Diana had left him and taken half his wealth in the divorce. Not because she had fallen out of love with him, but because she had fallen in love with what his money could buy. She had told him, right before she signed the papers, that she had never really loved Theodore the man. She had loved Theodore the millionaire. That confession had broken something inside him, and he had spent the years since then raising Emma alone, building his company back up, and quietly, painfully, trying to figure out if any woman in the world could love him for just being him. His friend Marcus, a marriage counselor, who had set up all 25 of these dates through a matchmaking app, had called him that morning and said this would be the last one. "Theo," Marcus had said, "you can't keep doing this to yourself. Give it one more shot, and then either open up or accept being alone." Theodore had agreed. One more chance. That was when Hazel Reyes walked in. She was 29 years old, with dark curly hair pinned back messily, wearing the same black apron from her shift that had apparently ended 20 minutes before their scheduled meeting. She was not dressed up. She had a small stain on her sleeve from what looked like tomato soup. She looked exhausted, but her eyes, warm brown, honest, lit up with a genuine smile the moment she spotted Theodore sitting alone, and she walked straight to him without any pretense and said, "Hi, I'm Hazel, and I'm so sorry I'm late. My shift ran long and I didn't have time to go home and change. I hope that's okay." Theodore told her it was more than okay. They ordered. Theodore made a show of looking at the prices and quietly asking if they could skip appetizers because things were tight this month. He watched her face carefully, the way he had learned to watch all 25 faces before hers. Hazel did not flinch. She did not check her phone. She looked at the menu and said, "Honestly, I live on a budget too. The soup here is amazing and it's only $7. Let's just get soup and coffee and talk. That sounds like a perfect evening to me." And so they talked. Hazel told him she had been waitressing for 4 years at 2 different restaurants to support herself and send money back home to her mother in San Antonio, who was recovering from a knee surgery. She told him she had been accepted into a nursing program, but had deferred it twice because she could not afford the tuition and still pay rent at the same time. She spoke about her struggles not with bitterness, but with a kind of steady, quiet determination that made Theodore feel something shift in his chest, something that had been locked for 6 years. He told her about Emma. He had learned not to mention his daughter too early on dates, because women either panicked or overcorrected and became too enthusiastic. But something about Hazel made him trust her. He said, "I have a daughter. She's 8. She's the best thing in my life." Hazel set down her spoon and smiled with her whole face. What's her name? Emma. Does Emma know you go on blind dates? Theodore laughed. A real laugh, not a polite one. No, she thinks I'm at a work dinner. Smart dad, Hazel said, nodding seriously. No pressure on either side until you know if it's worth mentioning. He looked at her for a long moment and felt the familiar tightening in his throat. The moment in every date where he knew he should tell the truth, and where fear had always stopped him. I have to tell you something, he said slowly. Hazel folded her hands on the table. Okay, I'm not broke, he paused. I'm actually not broke at all. He watched her carefully. She tilted her head. What does that mean? It means I've been pretending. Every date I've gone on for the last 2 years, I've shown up like this, dressed down, watching prices, pretending to struggle because I wanted to see if someone could like me without knowing I had money. Because the last person who knew I had money married me for it and left when she had taken enough. Hazel was quiet for a long moment. Theodore, he blinked. She did not seem angry. She did not seem impressed either. She just looked at him the way someone looks at a person who has been carrying something heavy for too long. I'm not going to pretend that didn't feel a little strange to hear, she added, but I understand why you did it. I'm not mad. I just think you deserve to stop testing people and start trusting them. You can't find love in a trap. Theodore said nothing because there was nothing to say. She was right. He knew she was right the way. You know something that has been true for a long time, but that you were not ready to hear until the right person said it at the right table. Over $7 soup in Austin, Texas. He paid the bill, the real bill, without pretending to count change. And he walked Hazel to her car in the cool February night air, and before she got in, she turned and said, I'd like to meet Emma someday, if that's something you'd be open to. Theodore smiled for the first time in a long time without any weight behind it. I think Emma would really like you, he said, and he meant every word. Sometimes love does not arrive in the way you planned or tested for. Sometimes it arrives in a soup-stained apron, running 20 minutes late. Honest and tired and absolutely enough. If this story touched your heart, please show your love and support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel Kindness True Stories. Your support means the world and helps us bring more stories of love, hope, and second chances to people who need them most. Thank you for being part of this journey.